our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
Happy Monday and welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. It is a big week in the SEC. Not only the games, but also what happened after the games. There you're looking at Sam Pittman, who spent the last few years as the Arkansas head coach. Before that was the offensive line coach at Georgia. He is now the former Razorbacks head coach after a disappointing loss to Notre Dame. He is out, making him the first firing in the SEC. We've already seen a handful of Power 4 schools depart with their head coach. The SEC having its first as Sam Pittman is now out in Fayetteville. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh today. And Patrick, it was one of these things where we talked about this with our friends in the Arkansas area. We talked about this with Trey Dare. We also talked about this with Courtney Mims a few times, how it seemingly was, hey, this thing better get corrected quickly for Sam Pittman to keep his job.
Yeah, and I mean, you really feel bad for Sam Pittman because, you know, he's just such a great guy. But the writing was on the wall, so to speak, from a couple weeks ago with the whole Hunter Yurachek comments on NIL,
right,
and that Arkansas doesn't have the money to compete with some of the other programs in the SEC. But you know, in this league especially, you have to win or else you're gone. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, Sam Pittman is the first SEC domino to fall, so to speak. I don't think he'll be the last. I think we'll have a few more before the end of the season. But, you know, this was an Arkansas team that was trying to right the ship after a few bad years for the program.
Right.
And, you know, you had the 2 wins against in-state opponents to start the year. Mm-hmm. And then ever since then, the rails have just fallen off. I mean, worst defense in the SEC.
Yep.
That's been a major problem. And when you give up 50 plus to Notre Dame, that calls for someone to get fired.
Yeah, I think that they had to make a change.
Yep.
And you made a great point about the athletic director. He didn't really help out either, and we'll see if he'll be able to retain his job after the season ends as well. We will get a lot of insight from our friends there in Arkansas after the big news today. Sam Pittman now out as the Arkansas head coach. Let's take a look at some of the topics for today before we dive a little bit more into this Sam Pittman news. We will talk a lot more about Sam Pittman. Also, Alabama ends a 33-game home winning streak. The Georgia Bulldogs held a great win for Alabama, and it's a far cry from where Alabama was just a month ago when they lost to Florida State. We'll dive into Alabama's big win in Athens. Also, Texas, they are now facing the Florida Gators as they jump into SEC play. There was some ups, there were some downs over the first few games. We'll see where the Longhorns stand. And how about Vandy? 5-0, 1 win away from securing bowl eligibility again. We will see if they can get that win. A huge win this week as they come to Tuscaloosa. All eyes will be on that. We'll talk about a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, also, Patrick, I know that you have some numbers there for Arkansas going into this season or into this game and just how disappointing it has been overall for this Arkansas football team. And is that necessarily just, as you mentioned, the fact that they have been the champions of almost for a really long time? We've heard that from our friends. We're champions of almost. They weren't almost on the field with Notre Dame on Saturday. 56 points they gave up, and obviously this comes the week after they lost to Memphis there in a big game, 32-31 there in Memphis. And so things have really fallen off, as you said, very quickly there at Arkansas. And we'll talk a little bit about the replacement for Arkansas because it is a very familiar face that used to do the Woo Pig Suey. And a crazy tenure there as Bobby Petrino now takes over as the new interim head coach. We will see if basically this can be a job interview for Petrino and how he handles these last few games.
Maybe see if he can get the interim tag off him. But I do want to go back to Sam Pittman here for a second. As you can see, here's a look at his record during his Hogs tenure. I mean, the best thing was he went 3-0 in bowl games when he got Arkansas to there. But as you can see, those last 2 bullet points, 425 yards allowed per game and then 30 points allowed per game. Worst in the SEC in both of these categories. I mean, you just can't win ball games when you're allowing offenses to go up and down the field at will, as they please. And I mean, CJ Carr looked really nice against Arkansas 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a weird start to the year for Notre Dame.
Right.
They started 0-2, and, what was going on. But since then, they've won 2 straight. Now Arkansas is going to turn to Bobby Petrino to see if they can right the ship. But honestly, I think this is a deeper problem than just the head coach. There's more. It's rooted in something bigger, and that's just how the sport is nowadays.
Mm-hmm. And Coach Pittman always coached and taught physicality,
yes,
and being physical at the point of scrimmage, the line of scrimmage, and he was known as a tough, gritty guy. Former offensive line coach there at Georgia, everybody loved him, but it felt like whatever edge that they used to try to play with, it feels like it is gone, and it feels like the hunger and the drive for that team to play a physical style of football had completely decimated, especially on defense. And we've talked about this a few times here on this program about where Arkansas was. And it felt like there's an old saying that the key to happiness is expectation.
Yes.
And you highlighted it really well there on the graphic, because they went 3-0 in bowl games. It felt like they ended off the season on a really strong note every year. And I felt like the next year was, this is our year. And I felt like the next year was, this is our year. Got a big bowl win. As you mentioned, got 2 wins in state. Got a huge win against Arkansas State. So the expectation felt like we should be moving in the right direction, and then it just comes completely falling off.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at that Week 3 game against Ole Miss, and that's not even a bad loss looking at where Ole Miss is now in the top 5, which that shocked me.
Yeah.
But, it was a one-possession game that they lost to Ole Miss, and here you are thinking, okay, Arkansas, they're not going to be that bad this year. They're going to actually compete, because, I mean, there were some expectations going into the year for Ole Miss. Obviously, they didn't know who was going to start at quarterback. The projection was Austin Simmons. He gets hurt, and now it's Trinidad Chambliss. But, looking back, that wasn't a bad loss. But then you go to the next week, and the loss to Memphis by 1, that kind of had people on edge. And we lose by 43 points
at home. Yeah,
that's unfathomable.
Yeah, and that was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But I agree with you. I think that this does run deeper. And if it wasn't the Notre Dame game, it would be some other game down the road. And it felt like Sam Pittman would always win a game or 2 that would end up saving his job. It felt like for the last maybe couple of years, it felt like, okay, 2 to 3 wins. Okay, we're coming up. We're coming back here. We're coming back here, and it never really turned around for Sam Pittman. And like you said, you feel bad for him because everybody likes him, and he will not be unemployed for very long. Of course, he'll hold on for it to get every dime of the buyout that's available to him. But he is such a really good offensive line coach, and he is a great recruiter. So there is going to be a lot of coaches that really want him on the staff to be able to shed his knowledge about offensive line play especially, and being able to get recruits. But they're losing recruits left and right now, because obviously it's a unshaky ground right now, and the players at the end of the season will all have time to hop into the transfer portal as well. So I expect Arkansas to look completely different next year, going into next season, depending on how they finish off the year. But they have one man right now in charge to take over for the next few games. It is former Arkansas coach Bobby Petrino. It feels like these two just can't quit each other.
No.
Petrino and Arkansas seem to be joined there at the hip. We have seen Bobby Petrino had a fall from grace.
Yes.
Obviously, the motorcycle incident was the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back there for his time at Arkansas. He's rehabilitated himself. He had a really strong run there at Louisville and a couple of other stops. He's known as an offensive genius. He now has he has a great quarterback at Tyron Green. Can they make that next step with him? Can they win a few games and get some momentum? We will find out there. But I find it really interesting that it's Bobby Petrino back as the head coach there with the Razorbacks.
We were talking about this yesterday, and I sent to the group chat, like, oh my goodness, like, Pittman is gone.
Right.
And then you go, is that really going to be Bobby Petrino that's going to take over in the meantime? And push comes to shove, yeah, it is him. But, he wasted no time. Yes. He got rid of the entire defensive staff after, as we were talking about, worse in the SEC through the first 5 weeks.
Right.
And I mean, he was like, you know what, I'm going to get to it. I've got a job I've got to do. And I mean, this is a tryout for him, because he could end up winning that job back.
That's the thing. And I had to go back and pull up his numbers. He was the Arkansas head coach for 4 seasons. His last season as a head coach, they went 11-2, and they won the Cotton Bowl. So he's got a really strong tenure as the Arkansas head coach, and then obviously did some great rehabilitation there at Louisville and then at Missouri State. In a couple of games, he ended up going to Missouri State. He went to the NCAA first round of the FCS tournament there. So it is Bobby Petrino who is back, and they have some weapons.
Yes,
they have weapons here on offense. So I don't know about the defense because, as you mentioned, the entire defensive staff is gone, most notably Travis Williams, who coached at Auburn, who played at Auburn back in the day, known as a really good recruiter himself. So they are starting from scratch defensively, but I do expect this team to score some points over the course of the next few weeks here. Now, will they have to win shootouts? Probably so.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got Taylon Green under center at quarterback, I mean, you're going to win some games. The offense hasn't been the problem, as we've mentioned.
Right.
It's just been the defense. But, Bobby Petrino did talk a little bit today in his press conference about what his plans for the defense are heading into the rest of the season. Let's take a listen.
Whenever you make a decision, you base it off of, number one, what's best for the team. Number two, what's best for the individual players. And I felt that, it was in our best interest to do what we did this morning, for our players to improve individually, get a little bit more motivated. And I think it'll help our team overall get out on the field and compete and find ways to win a game. Yeah, I mean, the first thing we have to do is get back to the principles of good defense, which is get into a great stance, get into a great alignment, run full speed to the football, shed blocks, and tackle well. To stop people on offense, you have to stop the run first, and we haven't been able to stop the run first. Some of it's been our fits by our linebackers. Some of it's been errors. So we're looking right now at really finding out what our base defense is going to be from here on, and then build the package out of that and simplify a little bit. If we simplify and play faster and full speed, then we'll have a better opportunity to stop people.
One thing that really caught my ear about this, Patrick, and we just talked about this as the sound was playing, it feels like the offense, as you said, that they feel good about it.
Yep.
And the defense is going all the way back to literally square one. Hey, he was talking about alignment and assignment and running to the football. It just feels like this defense is like, you don't want to have this 5 games in, but it feels like the defense is literally starting back from square one.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to start from square one.
Yeah.
I mean, we were sitting in this room about a month ago talking about Kalen DeBoer and Alabama's lack of effort against Florida State.
Yeah.
And they were just talking about, man, we just got to get back to the basics.
Yeah.
We got to control what we can control. And then Alabama goes and rips off a nice little win streak here. But, I mean, you look at it, and it's an Arkansas team that, as we've mentioned, it's a team of almost. They're this close to competing in the SEC. They just need a semi-decent defense to go with their offense that I know is going to score points the rest of the year.
Yes.
But, I mean, when you look at the road ahead for Arkansas, it's not pretty. And when you have a defense that is as questionable as this one has been this year, it's going to be a struggle for Bobby Petrino to get, I think, 4 wins the rest of the way. I mean, you look at it, it's tough.
It's a brutal schedule there. So Arkansas, the first SEC team to have a coaching vacancy and an interim head coach, but he's not the first overall, especially with the Power 4 conferences. We have a few guys that have now been fired and now looking for their job. Of course, we are running on this really accelerated calendar here. As you take a look at the 4 guys that were coaching Power 4 schools, seemingly all 4 are in different places. Gundy was there for forever. Sam Pittman had a nice little run at Arkansas. Deshaun Foster really just kind of got there at UCLA, and Brent Pry was trying to start things there at Virginia Tech. So it's not necessarily one size fits all here. These coaching vacancies are seemingly across the board as far as the different situations that led to them being fired.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Gundy, that one was a little bit of a shocker in a way. I mean, he had been there for so long. Everybody knew that he was Oklahoma State football, but when you lose to Tulsa, then you've kind of got to make a change. And then the same goes with Brent Pry. If you lose to Old Dominion, you kind of got to make a change. I mean, you lose to your own. The programs that lost to Group of 5 in-state foes. And it just felt like changes had to be made. And then obviously with this past weekend, Sam Pittman and Arkansas losing by 40, it just felt like there's got to be fresh faces in charge of these programs. And honestly, just going forward, it's going to be tough for all of these. But, I mean, I know Virginia Tech, I believe, had a nice bounce-back win this past weekend over NC State.
Yep.
But going forward, it's going to be tough for the Hogs.
Absolutely. We have a great array of guests on for today's show. Here in just a few minutes, we will catch up with our good friend Trey Dare, who almost basically kind of called this. He said that there's an opportunity here that if it doesn't look bad, if it doesn't look good, it could be really bad for Sam Pittman. Also, Roger Wallace will check in with us as the Texas Longhorns are heading into SEC play. And Corey Curtis, he had a big old smile on his face last week when he was talking about Vanderbilt and just how good they are. Well, they still have a 0 in the loss column. And Corey will join us from Nashville here, our great array of Next Star Nation guests, breaking down all things in the SEC. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will talk with Trey Dare on the other side of the break. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. The first domino has fallen in the SEC as far as head coaching vacancies go, as Sam Pittman is now out as the Arkansas head coach. We are very, very pleased to be joined by Trey Dare. We were with him late last week, and we talked about just how pivotal that Notre Dame game was from a perception standpoint and from an execution standpoint. It's now been about 24 hours since the decision was made there, Trey. What's the overall vibe been like there in Arkansas, and some of the ways that they're trying to put the pieces back together for the final part of the regular season?
Well, guys, clearly a change had to be made. It was just a matter of what that change would be. Could they've gotten by with some defensive staffing changes, hung on to Pittman? Would it have possibly been the athletic director? Could it have been a full house cleaning? Who knows? This is what they came up with, but it was very clear at the end of that Notre Dame. It was when, not if, Sam Pittman would be done. And would it just be, the idea of like, well, hey, we got to get some things in order. He can stick around for a little while, whatever it would have been. There was nobody that walked out of Razorback Stadium after losing that game by 43 points in the way they got dismantled, and to see a very clear decline on the program. You're right there with Ole Miss. You're right there with Memphis, but that's Memphis.
Yeah.
All due respect to a Tiger team that's probably going to win, 10, 11 games this year. That's not Ole Miss. So they got worse in there. And, from week 1 to week 2, and now the third straight week here with the third straight loss, the whole thing was just off the rails. A change absolutely had to be made, and unbelievable that they're firing coaches in September. It's crazy.
Trey, I mean, at the top of the hour, we talked about the Arkansas defense being some of the worst in the SEC so far. It seemed like when I was watching that game, it seemed like the effort wasn't there. Do you think Pittman lost the team ahead of his final game?
Absolutely. I think this is a climate of what you get in modern day college athletics. You go out and you're open for business, and you bring in guys that are out for their best interest and their bottom dollar. So essentially, these are pretty much just mercenaries that are hunting paychecks. And, you lose a tough one to Ole Miss. Well, how are you going to respond? Well, you lose again, blowing an 18-point lead, fumbling the ball away. It was going to be really hard to keep their attention, and that all fell on the head coach, and they couldn't do it. I think very clearly, I'm not signaling out any player, but collectively they quit. They weren't running to the ball. You had guys naked in that Notre Dame offense. I mean, there was nobody anywhere close to them. Not just missed tackles, but just a lack of effort, like not even getting a body on a guy. And yeah, I mean, I guess you want to generalize it and be like, well, the head coach isn't out there making tackles. He can't do anything about that. Bullcrap. You don't believe in what you're doing. The message gets lost. This is what happened. You get mad at your teacher. You get mad at mom and dad. You tune them out. It's just a way of life. Mm-hmm. It takes a really special person to try and keep all that together. Sam Pittman's a fantastic guy. I wish really well for him. Really, really do. Wish so badly it was going to work out. And mark my words, I say this with a ton of confidence. They will never find a guy that wanted the job and believed in how special the job was as much as Sam Pittman. But guys, that's just not enough. Yeah. Just, being really happy to be there and having a lot of pride and all that. You got to get results. 32 and 34, he had been given nearly 5.5 years. He got I'll never, feel bad for somebody getting an opportunity to coach in the SEC, coach in the NFL, whatever it was. Was it a fair opportunity? We could argue that all we want. Even the athletic director saying like, well, we got to increase resources. Well, that indicates that Sam Pittman didn't have the resources to compete, and a change has to be made.
Absolutely. And spinning it forward, now a change will be made as far as the head coaching goes, but it's a blast from the past that will take over their immediate future. It was so interesting. I tell you what, Trey, Patrick and us, we played some sound in the first block, and just seeing the signage of the Arkansas with Petrino there, it felt like we were back in 2013. What is it that you think that Petrino can do as far as maybe injecting some enthusiasm or some new energy? Because you mentioned a change had to be made. What do you think about this change and Petrino now taking over?
Yeah, I can't believe we're here. It's unreal. We'll see what Bobby has. If I'm just being honest, I think he's a brilliant mind. I do. I think he's a great play caller. But why did it end the way it did in Louisville? Yeah. Why was it just? There's a lot of dysfunction there at Texas A&M. They spent the money, I guess, in the wrong place on that roster. But, why couldn't he get more out of those players? Even at Missouri State, you're a really good point. Things don't get better with time, right? Like, our bodies don't get better after a certain point. They start to break down. Coaches, it seems like when they lose that fastball, it gets away from them. But still, all that said, this was a top 10 offense in yards a year ago. Petrino had a big hand in that. They did have it clicking against Alabama, Arkansas State, and Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Taylor Green played. They lost, but that was the game of Taylor Green's life. So how much?
From Oxford to Auburn, from Fayetteville to College Station, and from Columbia to, Columbia, and all points in between. All things SEC. Straight ahead on Southeast Sports Plus. The show is just ahead.
That way. It doesn't mean it can't work that way, but it's just not that simple. When Bobby Petrino took this job over, there was like 7 or 8 kids from the state of Arkansas wanted to be Razorbacks and went on to play in the NFL. Last I checked, we don't have that right now. And the way that players can jump around, even if you did have that, maybe kind of hard to maintain them. But yeah, excited to see what it looks like. But I promise you this, everybody at home, everybody will watch this clip, pay attention. That building feels different right now.
Yeah.
The day one he walked in there, and it's, all eyes on me. Mm-hmm. Do I have everybody's attention now? But how just because that change is made, what kind of results are we going to get?
Absolutely. Trey, I know you're super busy and you have a very busy day ahead of you. Thank you so much for your time here today on Southeast Sports Plus.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank you, Trey. Trey Dare out of Fayetteville. Obviously, Patrick, he's there. There's a lot of work to be done right now, not only with Arkansas as a football program, but what's ahead for their future. I think Trey laid it out really well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I know in West Virginia's case, Pat McAfee has said it. Sometimes to move forward, you have to go back to where the best you ever were, and I don't think Bobby Petrino was the best that Arkansas ever was. But while he was talking, that's all I could think about I was like, man, this sounds a lot like the Rich Rodriguez saga at West Virginia, and that's not going too well right now. So hopefully Bobby Petrino can do a little bit better than Rich Rod.
Maybe so. We'll see if it's addition by subtraction there in Fayetteville. Thanks to Trey so much for his time. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will talk with our good buddy Roger Wallace as Texas goes back to work this weekend, now in the SEC. That's next. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We got a chance to catch up with our good buddy Trey Dare moments ago about the Arkansas firing. One of Arkansas's permanent rivals going into next year is the Texas Longhorns. So there'll be a new coach on the sideline for that matchup, both this year and moving forward. We're now catching up with our good buddy Roger Wallace. Fixed up some audio issues during the break there. First off, Roger, let's get your opinion here. Obviously, you've known the SEC, you've been around this conference, you know Arkansas and this football team. What was your initial reaction there to Arkansas firing Sam Pittman?
Well, honestly, my brother's a Notre Dame grad. On that last touchdown of the half, I texted, I don't know if he can survive this. And it wasn't, 42.5 is bad. But the way Arkansas defended that last touchdown after the turnover and then the reactions around the stadium, he's been at best a 500 coach. His win was against Texas back in Sark's first year, and they really manhandled Texas in that game. And that was kind of Sark's moment to realize that we don't have SEC interior linemen on either side of the ball. But yeah, it wasn't surprised. Look at guys, quick trigger, right? In all Power 4 conferences now, there's an opening, and we're still a couple of days away from October 1st. So that one was bad for so many reasons. National TV, first time Notre Dame's ever been there, and they just, they look like they lost a little interest on defense, getting run over by that Notre Dame team.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they'll have a new coach for that matchup there against Texas. Speaking of Texas, the guys were off this past week and having a chance to really recalibrate the first few games of the season. How did this team handle the bye week? Some coaches do a little bit differently, where they take that first week and have them not practice at all, and then come back and go a little harder the second week. Sometimes it's vice versa. What was the bye week like there in Austin?
They practiced last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, fairly normal, probably more reps for the younger guys. And then off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, came back this morning and got into their normal week. Sark talked about, he said we could hear him in practice today, and that was good. That energy, that urgency he wanted to see coming back. Obviously, they're getting after it now with 3 or 4 straight road games, 3 true road games, and the Oklahoma game in the month of October. So I think he's hoping that they can take what they did with Sam Houston, realizing the competition goes way up, but just the fact that his team looked like what he wanted to see them, and translate it into this month and try to get on a little bit of a roll here.
Texas came in as the number 1 team in the nation, and we've seen a bit of an up and down, but it seems like the last game, as you mentioned, the Sam Houston game, it was up again, and they scored 55 points there. Now coming into the SEC, going up against Florida, a hungry Florida team that has looked good in spurts, but obviously not the season they have wanted. What's the overall take about the way Texas is now going to handle SEC play as the competition ratchets up?
Well, I think everyone left that game at Ohio State going disappointing. Thought there were chances to win the game, but not the worst thing in the world to lose on the road to number 1, or now the number 1, but the defending champs, et cetera. And then they took care of San Jose State, and you're like, okay, we saw some good things, even though it was just a spurt of offense and defense that really put that game away. And then the big questions came in the UTEP game: what happened to the offense? What's going on with Arch? And then Sam Houston's a winless team. So while everything looked clean, I think basically we're kind of right where we thought they would be after the Ohio State game. Okay, let's see what they can do in this stretch in October, starting at Florida, regardless of what Florida's done. And Sark has pointed out, look at their last 3 ball games, played really good teams to a Miami team that maybe is an outstanding team. Their problems all seem to be pretty consistent on the offensive end. Sark very concerned about that Florida defense. And, it's kind of one of those things where you go, we don't want to be the team when they figure it out. Yeah. And so I'm sure he's thinking that very well could be Saturday afternoon after they had a bye week as well.
If you're Texas right now, if you're Ohio State right now, you're almost everybody's Super Bowl. You're almost everybody's big game, the one that they all get up for. I expect the Swamp to be unbelievably enthusiastic and energized. What's the overall message as you do go into hostile environment in the SEC, knowing, like you said, that you don't want to be the team where they figured it out, or you don't want to be the team where the outside noise kind of gets to you? What's that like internally for this football team as they go to a place like the Swamp that has this legendary status across college football?
Yeah, and I think that's where the Ohio State game will help them, not because, that was a month ago. These are, it's a team that kind of evolves, but what you're talking about, the atmosphere, the hype, the mystique of that stadium. They went to the Horseshoe. They watched them unfurl the banner for the national championship. They saw Lee Corso put on the mascot head for the final. I mean, they saw it all.
Yeah,
it was the perfect storm. So in that regard, this won't be anything that has their eyes wide open, but it's going to be different just because it's a different place, different fan base, and a different time in the season. They've had a really good road record, 11 straight road wins prior to the Ohio State game. They won at Alabama a couple of years ago. Last year, they won at Texas A&M. They won at Arkansas. Arkansas gave them a really good game. So in that regard, I think they're well equipped. Question is, can their offense do enough? Can they, exploit Florida enough defensively and then keep Florida's offense from finding some rhythm and finding some explosive plays? DJ Lagway, assuming he's healthy, and we think he is despite the reports that he was in a boot, playing against the team from his home state. Sark recruited him. Seems like we tell that story with every quarterback they face at a Power 5. But anyway, yeah, that it's all that. And then, if they get down 14-0 or something, then you kind of wonder, okay, how are they going to handle this? Ohio State was one thing, but this place now, the lid might come off because of all the frustration in Gainesville as well.
Roger, all the eyes have been around Arch Manning this whole season, not the start that he wanted. It seemed like he bounced back against Sam Houston. Do you think Texas being off this past week is going to hurt Arch Manning's momentum, or do you think it's going to help him gain some more?
Yeah, that's interesting because, you're right. He probably wanted to get right back out there and play after finally having some good feelings. But I think he's realistic, too. He knows it's going to be a much different animal that they're facing on Saturday than Sam Houston. So I think he probably realized that the bye came at a good time for a lot of reasons. One, he may get some big weapons back in Quintravian Wisner and possibly C.J. Baxter. So those would have been their 1 and 2 running backs. Haven't had them for a few weeks. We don't know about Emmett Mosley, the wide receiver transfer from Stanford. Probably not. But as Sark was asked about injuries today, he said, hey, I love the SEC availability report that comes out starting on Wednesday, because he didn't have to address it. Address it for him. So, so I think obviously he's going to be happy about and get weapons back in the backfield. So I don't think he was so caught up in what he did against Sam Houston as far as, keeping that momentum going, as much as getting some rest, a little extra time as they get set for this stretch.
You called it spot on in the first game of the season, played Ohio State, and then you said they get to hide for a few weeks there because they had 3 teams that was not going to generate a lot of national interest, and then the bye week. Is there a sense for this team to almost reintroduce themselves back to the state of college football, knowing that your casual fans and parts unknown across the United States really haven't paid attention to Texas over the last few weeks of the season? Is there an element of, hey, let's show everybody who we are again after these first 3 weeks?
No question. I mean, and again, forget Florida's record. It's Florida. It's the SEC opener. It's going to have a big audience on Saturday afternoon. It's 2 huge brands on the helmet, Texas and Florida. I will say, though, they have gotten a little attention, and it's not surprising. What was the attention? Arch's struggle against UTEP and Arch's reaction to his touchdown against Sam Houston. So all that was, kind of either with the UTEP, it was, wow, there's some concern, or with the touchdown celebration kind of rolling their eyes. Okay, great. You ran over Sam Houston and scored a touchdown. So, yeah, the attention of those 2 moments is pretty much all it's been the last 3 weeks. So, no question, if they go down to Florida, take care of business, they're sitting at 9. Not that that matters, but people notice numbers by names when the scores come up. Yes, then all of a sudden you go to Oklahoma, matchup a week from Saturday in the Cotton Bowl with a much different kind of feeling and maybe perception around the country of this team. Or if things don't go well, then people are going to go, okay, is this going to be the October slide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you teed up this perfectly about the Oklahoma game, and I'm interested in the way that Texas will handle the Florida week with Oklahoma coming up. Do you think that they play a little bit more conservatively in the swamp and not really show their hand the way that they've had to do over these last 3 weeks, just kind of not show their hand, play more of vanilla style, or is it full throttle, full force?
The only way I could see that is if they jump on Florida and have the game in hand, but that just doesn't seem realistic on the road against a good defensive team. No, I don't think so. And the other thing is Oklahoma knows Texas. Texas knows Oklahoma. The names change, but the coordinators, Oklahoma obviously has a new offensive coordinator, so it's more so Texas figuring out Oklahoma. Will it be John Mateer? Will it be Michael Hawkins like they saw last year? But no, I think Sark is locked in on find a way to get out of Gainesville with a win and then start all over again Saturday night, Sunday morning with Oklahoma.
Speaking of Oklahoma, obviously you got a chance to watch the rivals from up north over the last few weeks. What do you make of what the Sooners are doing and kind of answering the call? But as you mentioned, John Mateer now out of that football game, and Michael Hawkins will be able to play in the Red River rivalry once again.
Well, it's funny because my first thought about Mateer was Baker Mayfield. Fiery, tough. He'll run the ball. He'll give up his body. He seems to make them go so much faster. All the things that Mayfield did. Mayfield, of course, played at Texas Tech, and Texas had their way with him in Oklahoma. They split those 2 ball games, but it's the defense, guys. I mean, that was Texas went up and down the field last year and 3 years ago against Oklahoma, and even 2 years ago they went up and down the field. It's just Oklahoma did the same thing. But the way they handled Auburn, now we know Auburn has some offensive deficiencies, but that front seven for Oklahoma looks different than it has the last few years, and I'm sure that's the first thing that jumps off the tape for Sark and that Texas staff as well.
Absolutely. Roger, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus. I know it's going to be a really interesting matchup. Last thing before we leave you, what do you make of the line? It's only a 6.5. It opened at 7.5, and now Texas is a 6.5 point favorite. Do you think that's just to bait more money on the Florida side or on the Texas side, or do you think that there's something to a slim line considering where these two teams are?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know what they would look at to make it move by 1 point. I don't know if it has to do with some injuries people know about. Nothing from the Texas end should surprise people on the health front. But I'm sure, 6, 7, that's still this Texas team has yet to prove itself other than playing Ohio State close. So in that regard, I think it's probably right about where it should be for a road game SEC opener. And again, I think Florida at some point will figure it out. Question is, will it be on Saturday? And how good is this Texas defense? They kept the training wheels on Julian Sayin, and he did just enough. Now we see he's pretty good quarterback, even though he's as young as he is. And the other 3 teams were just overmatched. And so we'll see as much about this Texas defense on Saturday, to me, as about Arch Manning and the offense.
Absolutely. Roger, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. Got a little respite last week and then now into SEC play this week. Thanks again.
Right on, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Roger Wallace out of Austin, Texas, as now Florida gets into SEC play. I think this game is really interesting because we've talked about it, and Roger really nailed this on the head, the fact that everybody will bring their best against Texas. And we've seen what Florida looks like when they play well. Their record's not that great, but they have the opportunity to play really well in this football game.
I think this game is very interesting because this is going to tell us a lot about this Florida team. In my eyes, they're playing for their coach right now.
Yeah.
Are they going to come out flat because they don't like their coach, or are they going to come out guns blazing because they want Billy Napier to stay? But, I mean, you look at DJ Lagway, he's got to still have that sour taste in his mouth. The last game he played, 5 interceptions. Yeah. You can't win games in the SEC doing that. But, I think Billy Napier this week, as ever is your job on the line.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can get it done or if Texas can continue rolling on as they've done over the last 3 weeks as they go now into SEC play. Join us here. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will talk the latest AP poll and the big Alabama win over Georgia in Athens. That and so much more coming your way next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We've had a couple of great guests so far on today's program as we close up the first hour. Trey Dare out of Fayetteville and Roger Wallace there out of Austin, as two programs going in completely different directions there, Patrick Walsh, and they're two programs that will see each other for the bulk of the next few years at least because they're permanent opponents there. But Hogs and Razorbacks, whew, it's a Hogs and the Longhorns, I should say, are going completely opposite directions right now.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has a chance after these next 2 weeks, probably playing a depleted Oklahoma team, could get up to 5-1, and then they go on the road to Kentucky and Mississippi State. But, you know, as you mentioned, Hogs are going down, Texas going up.
Yep. And Texas is also making some moves there in the polls as well. Let's take a look at the latest AP Top 25 poll. We will start with Arizona State there at number 25, Virginia at 24. I'll let Patrick read out a stat that he heard about the Cavaliers and another football team out of the SEC. BYU, Illinois, and Notre Dame holding there at number 21, which I thought was really interesting, given the fact that they, had such a wonky start to the season.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Virginia, arguably one of the greatest field rushes of all time, the one that might get other field rushes banned. But I read a stat that Virginia and Vanderbilt are both ranked in the AP poll for the first time since, I believe, 1948.
That's
I mean,
insane.
It's just unreal times. I mean, you just look at 3 years ago, Virginia's football team was not good.
Right.
And then you look at 3 years ago, Vanderbilt's football team was not good.
Yep.
So, I mean, these two programs being able to turn it around like that, it really has been entertaining and, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Vanderbilt, they are right there, right inside the top 20 there. Number 16, joined by Virginia Tech. Florida State with that big loss on Friday night. Yep. Missouri and Michigan there in the top 20. Let's take a look at the top 15 here. Tennessee Volunteers remain number 15. Ooh. Iowa State, LSU drops to number 13. Georgia and Texas Tech. What stands out?
I think Tennessee staying in the top 15 is a little bit interesting. Don't sleep on Mississippi State, as I've mentioned for the last week or so now. Our good friend and co-host Simone Eli doesn't really think Mississippi State's that good. Well, I hope you realize that they played Tennessee pretty close.
They did.
And I still think they're going to beat Texas A&M next weekend, which rolls us right into the top 10 here. Texas A&M at 6.
Texas A&M at number 6 after that big win over Auburn. Penn State slides to number 7 after losing a double overtime to Oregon. Indiana, the Fighting Curt Cignetti's there at number 8. Texas right now in the top 10, and Alabama. How about this rise after the Florida State game? They have done nothing but go up in the polls.
They were counted out after week 1. Everyone was hating on them. And I got to say, I didn't believe in Alabama after week 1. I didn't know if they could turn it around. And, I'm glad that I was sorely mistaken, because I feel great for Kalen DeBoer, because I believe from day one he was the right man for this job. And it's just great to see the Tide turn it around. Yeah,
he has stayed on the topic the entire time about, hey, we have to just get better and focus on us. And that's what they've done. They've rattled off a nice little win streak here. Our top 5 includes Ohio State, Oregon, the Miami Hurricanes. Look at the Ole Miss Rebels there, and Oklahoma. The Lane Train and Company, top 5 in the country. We'll dive a lot more into LSU and Ole Miss. That and so much more next here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
Hope our fans had a good day. Appreciate them not rushing the field. So, but I think, not to take away from probably extra security, it probably helped. But to me, that's really cool that you get to a place at a program that you do beat the number 3 team in the country and you don't rush the field because we did what we're supposed to do. Yeah, Winnie's going to be a great player here. Shoot, I'm not supposed to say that because then everybody will go buy him in the portal. Forgot I'm not supposed to do that anymore. I mean, he's just okay, you know. He really doesn't know his plays and stuff, so, you know, it'll be a couple years before he's good.
Purely from the money side, I'm curious with what $500,000 buys you in the portal these days. Like, is that a conversation you have to have about the money side and how important it is?
Gets you half of one of their DBs. Just since you're asking.
Lane Kiffin is on an absolutely legendary run right now. Not only is his team undefeated, it's 3-0 now in the SEC. They got a huge win over LSU. This great documentary comes out. His daughter makes front page news dating the linebacker for LSU, and then he goes and beats LSU thanks in large part to his offense. This is just a crazy run right now by Lane Kiffin.
You know, the whole week, all he could think about was, all right, I know I'm going to win this game.
Yeah.
Because you could just tell that Lane's just got all the confidence in the world.
Absolutely.
He knew he was going to win this game, and he was just thinking, all right, how can I just make the funniest post-game press conference I could ever do?
Yeah.
Obviously, the post-game interview on the field, he was like, I gotta go find Whitweek,
yeah.
see if we covered the over after saying, take the over earlier in the week. But I mean, this Ole Miss team, Lane Kiffin,
they are legit. They are absolutely legitimate. This is not any fluky thing. This is just where he is right now. And he mentioned something in that soundbite. I'm so glad you cut it the way that you did, because he talked about them not storming the field, and he obviously made the funny quip in the fact that obviously they're saving money and whatnot. But his second point to that I thought was a great one. He talked about their standard and how their standard has changed.
Yeah.
Now they expect to win these football games, and now when the LSU team comes into town, number 3 team in the country, their fans aren't like, hey, super giddy. That's where they want to be. That's where they are. I know the players have that mindset, but for the fans to have that mindset, he has completely changed everything around.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch the many lives of Lane Kiffin that came out last week, the ESPN, the E60, I think just watching the part where he almost got pulled away from Ole Miss to go to Auburn.
Yeah.
And, historically, Ole Miss hasn't been a program that has been atop the SEC. And I just think it's very interesting because it almost feels like a changing of the guard.
Yep.
That Ole Miss is in the top 5 of the AP poll.
Yep.
Is 3-0 in SEC play. And after Lane Kiffin was very outspoken about the Rebels missing the 12-team college football playoff last year, is turning the page and defeats an LSU team, which a year ago they lose this game. And,
Yes.
They did lose this game a year ago in overtime. But it was just a gritty win. I mean, you look at this. They took down the goalpost just in case.
And
nobody was on the field.
Yeah. That's hilarious. This is such great video because you mentioned it, the fact that they had all these precautions on the front end, and they're at Vaught Hemingway. They're like, you know what? This is what we're supposed to do. Let's just go back to the Grove, have a couple drinks, celebrate this one, and that's just who we are right now. But it's so interesting to see where this Ole Miss program is right now, and the fall for LSU, because I think this is kind of two-pronged, where you're seeing an Ole Miss football team get all the confidence in the world, and an LSU team, yes, this is their first loss, and they've had some big, it felt like big wins in the moment. Beating Clemson felt like a big win in the moment there. But it feels like this offense has just been stuck in neutral. And obviously, but Garrett Nussmeier didn't throw for 200 yards there in that matchup. What do you make of where LSU is right now? not just with the loss, but it just feels like this offense is not really performing.
You know, I got to be a little careful because in my preseason media poll, I had them winning
That's true.
the SEC. But no, it's been very weird.
Yeah.
Because you look at the Clemson game, and at the time, you think, okay, this is Brian Kelly's signature win. He finally is able to win a big game.
Right. And
then you look at it now, and it's just like, wow, the Clemson team is nowhere near what anybody thought they would be.
Right.
1-3 to start the year. And then you look at the Florida game. We had talked about this. DJ Lagway throws 5 interceptions.
Right.
You still only win by like 10 points.
10, and they only score 20. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a cause for concern. Brian Kelly and Garrett Nussmeier both want to downplay, his Nussmeier's injury, but I think it's partially the injury, but partially Garrett Nussmeier himself, because if you go back to last year, this is kind of what we saw out of Garrett Nussmeier, just the inconsistency. Sometimes, he was the only quarterback to return that threw for 4,000 yards last year, but it was just sometimes he would make you wonder, like, really? Like, you show these glimpses of greatness, but then you come out and you have a game like you did, 197 yards, touchdown, interception against Ole Miss, and it's just like, you're so close to being in this upper echelon, and then you just keep doing it to yourself over and over again to just drop yourself back into the place you just were.
Yeah, we talked to Chester Boucher after the La Tech game. It was the second game of the season. Yeah. And one of the things she said is almost like a cautionary tale, like firing like a warning shot, just like, hey, this offense does not look very good right now. And they only scored, you mentioned 20 points against Florida. I take out the Southeastern Louisiana game where they dropped 56, and then they scored 19 on Saturday. So it just feels like this offense just hasn't been able to get right, and they have a really good South Carolina defense coming into town this upcoming week. Meanwhile, on the other side, they have an abundance of riches there. They have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the quarterback situation, because Lane Kiffin, and we talked about this last week, one of the things I said about Lane Kiffin is, yes, he's an offensive genius, but he is a great developer of quarterbacks. We're seeing Jackson Dart yesterday in the NFL have an unbelievable start to his rookie season. And now he's got 2 quarterbacks on his team right now that could be probably 2 of the best quarterbacks in the entire league.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Austin Simmons coming into the year. Everyone thought that he was going to be the Ole Miss starter, and he was in the beginning until he got hurt. Now, you see the 4 pass touchdowns, the 4 interceptions, and you kind of shake your head like, oh, no, 4 interceptions. But, I mean, he was playing great football up until he got hurt.
Yeah.
And then Ole Miss fans held their breath when he got hurt because who is this Trinidad Chambliss guy coming in? Like, oh, man, he's coming in from a D2 school. You know, what's he going to do at the SEC level?
Right.
Well, I don't know. I'm just going to drop 1,000 yards in a couple of games and, go my first 2 games without giving up the ball. And he only threw 1 pick against LSU and led the Ole Miss Rebels over LSU. That defense, that LSU defense that has been talked about all offseason, and the LSU defense that was coming off 5 interceptions against Florida. And, I mean, the score might have been a little bit closer, 24-19. That score isn't indicative of how this game was. Ole Miss dominated.
Absolutely. And as my cousin eloquently put it, he said, Lane Kiffin is in his bag. He's just and absolutely just a great game plan, great scheme. The guys executed it really well as well. So this is a really confident LSU or Ole Miss bunch right now. As you mentioned, top 5 team now in the country with a big win there. To see if they can continue moving it forward. Meanwhile, Brian Kelly, after the game, he had some of his comments. And listen, he's been an interesting character after some of these games. There's that one game that they won a couple weeks ago, and they talked about how bad the offense looked, and he fired in at a reporter. Also got a chance to talk about this past week after suffering their first loss of the season.
So at the end of the day, when you put it all together for 4 quarters, we didn't play complementary football, which you have to do in this league. You have to be able to complement your offense and defense, and we were out of sync with that. When our offense started to move the ball a little bit, our defense couldn't make a stop. In the first half, we couldn't do anything offensively. We settled for a field goal, or in one instance, we throw a pick down there. We just couldn't get this whole group playing together with the same effectiveness that you need to win games like this. So this is not about they didn't play hard. They got to play fast and free and physical, but they got to know that they have to complement each other. And we can't play this game of, well, we're going to play well defensively for a bit, Then we're going to play okay on offense for a bit and go back and forth. This team has to click on all cylinders, and we're not clicking on all cylinders right now. I believe in this team. I love this group. They're really good football players, but we got to get them to complement each other on a day-to-day basis.
Coming into this season, LSU was considered one of the best teams. You had them on your SEC championship, and honestly, the season's not over. Obviously,
Right.
they're still in prime position to do everything that they want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, if it comes down to a tiebreaker with them and Ole Miss will have the tiebreaker between those two. But as much as I want to see the glass half full, and as much as I want to see the silver lining, it's sometimes kind of hard for me because they've given me very little evidence that they could do this consistently, put together the offense there consistently with this football team. What do you make of what's ahead of them with a very, very difficult schedule ahead?
Well, I mean, as you just heard with Brian Kelly, he wants them to be able to put both offense and defense together. And honestly, you could say that about a number of football teams at the professional and collegiate level. But, you know, I'm still searching for Brian Kelly to get that signature win that we were talking about. Obviously, Clemson was not that signature win. And this was a prime opportunity for Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers to go into Oxford with all the noise around Lane Kiffin.
Right.
You're coming off that overtime win last year against these guys at home. You stormed your own field against them. All the hype was around it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you just lay an egg in the middle of the day against Ole Miss, and then now you just drop back to, all right, are we average?
Right.
Is this just going to be another year wasted in the Brian Kelly era? Is Brian Kelly the guy? Are we going to have some considerations around, is Brian Kelly the right coach for our program? But, you know, as you mentioned, this is a tough stretch coming up.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is what in sports we like to call gut checks.
Yes.
And this is a major gut check for this LSU team because, you know, if they let it get to them, they could easily fall out of this race for the college football playoff. I still think that they can make the college football playoff with an at-large bid, but they cannot let this loss dictate the rest of the year.
Right, absolutely. And for what the rest of the year looks like, they have a bye week this week, so it's a chance to really regroup, refresh, get some rest. Then October 11th, they'll host South Carolina, who's coming off a really nice win there over Kentucky this past week. Then it's Vandy, Texas A&M, Alabama, a depleted Arkansas team before Western Kentucky, and then Oklahoma to close out the football season. It is a really tough stretch over the next few weeks, but I think we'll get a lot of answers during the bye week if there are personnel changes, what changes need to be made offensively for this football team to be able to take that next step as they move forward. But it's certainly a gauntlet, though, and a lot of teams that feel really good about their seasons as of right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we just talked about Vandy a little bit ago. That could be a game that in the past everyone just looked over Vandy, but as we've mentioned many times on the show, Vanderbilt, you cannot look past them anymore. And that graphic that I showed in the can win versus must win to make the college football playoff, I mean, they genuinely think that they can make the college football playoff.
Yes.
After going 5-0 to start the year for the first time since 2008.
Diego Pavia said, and at the time we all laughed, Simone included, we're competing for a national championship. We want to win a national championship. I mean, they were serious about this. Everybody laughed at them, but they still have a 0 in the loss column, and they are now going to be the main attraction in college football is College Game Day. Nick Saban and all of them come to town in the big Alabama game.
I want to make a comparison, and I don't mean to switch to sports because we're going to get to golf at the end of the show.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Curtis Strange interview with Tiger Woods.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
He was like, you know, I go into every tournament.
Right.
Why play a tournament if I don't think I'm going to win? And then Curtis Strange goes, you'll learn.
You'll learn. Right. Almost like, and I don't know if you've seen those two. I think it was, I don't know if it was both Curtis Strange and Tiger Woods, but it was definitely Curtis Strange watching that interview back. And it's just like, he made me eat my words.
Like, you know.
it's insane.
But I mean, that could be the case with Vanderbilt this year. I mean, if they are able to knock off Alabama
again,
this time in Tuscaloosa and get to 6-0, I think there need to be some serious conversations had about, is Vanderbilt going to the college football playoff?
Absolutely. As of right now, they're just outside the top 20, looking good. And we will talk a lot more of the Commodores with our good friend Corey Curtis. They're in Nashville. They have a lot to celebrate right now with the Commodores still undefeated and now one of the big attractions for College game day. That and so much more next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Alabama and Vanderbilt will be the two teams that are on the main stage of college football this upcoming week. Alabama with a huge win over Georgia in Athens. Vanderbilt, they remain undefeated in the top 20 right now. We spoke with Corey Curtis last week out of Nashville about this run here for the Vanderbilt Commodores, and you mentioned that their play in the trenches has been really where they have taken that next step. They have a celebrity quarterback. We will dive into Diego Pavia. They have a steady head coach in Clark Lee. First off, Corey, let's just talk about this start overall and where this team is right now after that big win over Utah State.
Well, look, they're not the same old Vanderbilt in the fact that this team expects to win. And I think that's, one of the main differences. And, when coaches talk about a culture, one of the things is creating an expectation of wins, and you guys have seen it. I've seen it. There are teams that find a way to win and teams that find a way to lose. Yep. And last week's a good example for Vanderbilt. They had a number of things kind of go wrong in the first half with the officiating and some calls that didn't go their way. Utah State came in averaging 38 points a game, and they put some points on the board, but they didn't even flinch. They were tied at 14-14, and the next thing you know, it's 35-20 at the half. I mean, they just kept playing and exploded and took care of business.
Absolutely. Diego Pavia has been the talk of college football since the season started. Almost a celebrity quarterback, but he's also translating it to the football field as well. Where have you seen his development from where this team started in fall camp to where they are right now?
Well, he's no longer a nice story. He
Yes.
is one of the elite quarterbacks in all of college football, and I defy you to find three quarterbacks who are playing better, because I'm not going to believe you if there are.
Right.
All right? Diego is completing 75% of his passes, 94 of 126 for 1,200 yards. He had 5 touchdown passes on Saturday. I think he was the first Vanderbilt quarterback, to do that. He also leads the team in rushing at 294 yards. He's got 2 more touchdowns there, and he's just got that juice that also elevates the team. But Clark Lee talked about it after the game. He said, everybody talks about Diego for all the obvious reasons. What gets lost is how much better he is even than a year ago. He has improved in his year at Vanderbilt. He's a much better player now, a steadier player. I mean, he makes throws that not a lot of other quarterbacks make. Either they don't have the courage to do it, or he's got the ability to pinpoint and do it. And I'm quite certain he could have made more money going somewhere else in the offseason.
Absolutely. And he kind of made his presence known last year, even really the year before that when he was at New Mexico State, beat Auburn, and then last year obviously had a great run, and now they play Alabama. I feel like last year's Alabama game was the turning point where this was not a fluke. This is not a fluke team. This is a team that is now ready to take that next step. Now that it's Alabama again, they're not going to catch anybody by surprise. Brian Williams had that comment during the offseason. They want to kill an ant with a sledgehammer.
Sure.
Probably eating those comments right now. Where is this team mentally as they go into this Alabama week, knowing that College Game Day is there and all the hype that's involved?
Well, look, they're not an ant. All right, they're not an ant anymore, and so my guess, will be unafraid going down there. They will look forward to going down there with an expectation to win. For Vanderbilt, this game is exciting for a couple of reasons. Number one, they think they can win, but number two, this is a game they got to have.
Yeah.
They want to make the college football playoff. If they lose this game, they get kicked to the curb, and people say, see, they weren't ready for prime time. They're a nice team, a nice story, but they're not ready to compete for one of those final 12 spots. They go to Alabama and win, and all of a sudden they're in all the shows, as a team that everybody's talking about that can make that final 12 playoff. So for Vanderbilt, I don't want to say this is a must-win because there's other wins you see there that they could get. I mean, shoot, if they lose to Alabama and then win the next 3, they're still going to be in good shape. But, 10, 13, 19, and 9, I mean, that's a tough road. But if you can go 2-2 in that stretch, you're in business.
Right.
You're in business.
Right.
And there's no better way to do that than with number one. And man, I feel for Kalen DeBoer. The number 1 scoring team in the country is?
Who's that?
It's Florida State, scoring 53 points a game.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
And now they've got Vanderbilt scoring 49 points a game. They're the number 4 scoring team in the country. And later this season, they've got Tennessee, the number 3 scoring team in the country at 51 points a game. So that Alabama defense has been up against it and will continue to be up against it this year.
You have handicapped these games really well as far as what Vanderbilt needs to do to be successful. You handicapped the Utah State game as it relates to this weekend and at Tuscaloosa. Going into a hostile environment, obviously everybody is going to be paying attention to this matchup. What do you expect that this Vanderbilt team will need to do from an execution standpoint at Bryant? They need to be able to come away with another win.
Well, I'm going to say something that I never thought I would say. They need to beat on them for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, Vanderbilt running the football this year. We talk about Pavia a lot, but we touched on the guys in the trenches. Guys, they're averaging 6.5 yards a carry this season. They've got, I think, 18 rushing touchdowns. So they need to keep it a game going into halftime and try to wear out that Alabama defense in the 3rd and 4th quarter, like they did to South Carolina, like they did to Virginia Tech, and like they did to Utah State just last week. And so they just can't get overwhelmed early with the fever pitch that I'm sure is going to be there, not just because game day is there, but I'm sure Alabama's out for blood in this one. I mean, they're embarrassed by that loss last year. Alabama doesn't lose to Vanderbilt, okay? And so they will be ready and waiting. So you've got to survive that first wave, all right? And then you don't have to try to score 3 touchdowns in one play. You just got to keep playing. And Vanderbilt has shown they won't panic. You know, they were tied with Virginia Tech at halftime. You know, they struggled, like I said early, with Utah State for a number of reasons, and then just ended up blowing their doors off. So they just have to keep their wits about them and take the game into the 4th quarter. And if they take the game into the 4th quarter and it's a 7-point game, I like number 2.
Yeah,
I just do.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about Diego Pavia, and deservingly so, and you mentioned it. He's off to a great start both statistically and from a leadership standpoint. If there was an X factor for this team, a guy that probably nobody is talking about right now or even to the course of the season, but if they come away with a win on Saturday, they'll all be talking about that player. Who do you think that would be?
Well, I mean, there's a couple guys on offense because we all know Eli Stowers, but Junior Sherrill's got 5 receiving touchdowns this year. And you know, Cedric Alexander's a good running back, but there's another back there named Macklin Young. He's only got 20 carries this year, but he's averaging 10.5 yards per carry. He's scoring once every 5 times he touches the football. And I guess the point I'm making is Vanderbilt doesn't have to do it with one guy.
Yeah.
They've got a line. They've got actual weapons. So it can be somebody that you don't expect. It absolutely can be.
Absolutely. Clark Lee has been such a steady voice, such a calm poise, and from a present standpoint, what do you think his message will be to his football team as they go in here? Because I feel like with these kind of games, you have to do almost a balancing act of being up and hyped for the moment, but also calm and steady. And I feel like they have that, their quarterback and their head coach. How do you think that he blends that message?
Well, I think you don't make the moment more than it is. It's a big game in a big environment, but they've played big games in big environments. Don't try to do too much too early. Don't just get overwhelmed with emotion when you start the football game. Play your game. You know who you are. You know you're good enough. Line up and play football. Believe in yourselves. You deserve to be here, and you're good enough.
Absolutely.
I think that's the message. He doesn't have to hype these guys up. He doesn't have to convince them that they're good enough. He just has to have them play their game. This isn't a team that commits a lot of penalties, guys.
Right.
They don't turn the football over. And if they don't commit penalties and they don't turn the football over, they're going to be in this football game. You know, winning at Alabama is really, really difficult. And I never in my life thought I would expect to see Vanderbilt go in with a chance to win in Tuscaloosa. But here I sit, a 54-year-old man, and I even saw the Cubs win the World Series. Now I see Vanderbilt with a chance to win in Tuscaloosa.
Hey, speaking as a Cubs fan, I'm hoping for another championship run. I'm wearing my Cubs t-shirt tomorrow, my Cubs hat, the same one I wore every playoff. It's been a few years since the playoffs, but no, I'm right there with you. We saw the Cubs win a championship, and who knows?
I'm so old, I'm looking for revenge from 1984.
Oh,
man, why do we have to talk about baseball? You know, I already.
Oh yeah,
I'm a Mets fan.
He's a Mets fan, so it's been a rough one.
Man, I was really hoping the Cubs could play the Mets in the playoffs. It would have been nice to eliminate those guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. Get your revenge for 2015. You know, I would have liked to go up against Gerhard. You know, that sports office would have been pretty fun.
Yeah, that would have been a madhouse this upcoming week. Stepping right outside of the SEC, I actually want to ask you 2 questions. One, not about Vanderbilt, but about Tennessee and that big game there against Mississippi State. What did you make there of that effort going into Starkville, a hostile environment, and then being able to pull away with the win there in overtime?
I think Mississippi State's a little better than everybody thinks.
Absolutely.
And that was I was frankly surprised with how good they were. They got 42 new players, and they're a good football team. Arian Carter was everywhere. He had 17 tackles on defense. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and it wasn't Joey Aguilar's best day.
Right.
But when they had to have the drive and had to have the touchdown, he goes 6 for 6 and runs it in. I don't think enough is being made over how huge that moment is in a hostile environment on the road. Got to get 7 points against a good team, and Aguilar goes and does it. He's an excellent player.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also wanted to talk about the big story of the day around the SEC. Obviously, the firing of Sam Pittman there at Arkansas, the first domino to fall in the SEC.
Oh, wow.
And I think your reaction says it all when we talk to people that are in and around Arkansas, in and around the SEC. Well, what do you make of this big decision and now the first vacancy in the league?
I mean, it shouldn't surprise us, should it? But it's still, it's staggering. It's staggering. And it shouldn't be, because Bobby Petrino has won games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's always what it comes down to is winning and losing football games. And so regardless of whatever baggage somebody may or may not have, but it just goes to show you how important winning is.
Yeah.
That they're willing to – I mean, this is really one of the most embarrassing marks in Arkansas football history when he had his incident and got let go from the program. And you're so desperate to win, you're saying, come back. What are the T-shirts saying, let's ride again?
Yeah, God, I haven't seen that. That's hilarious, though.
It's just, wow. That's better than the T-shirts that I'm seeing in Nashville today. I can't even say what they say.
Oh, goodness. Well, wait, about Vandy or about the Titans?
Oh, about the Titans. They're quoting Cam Ward.
Oh,
okay. I did see that.
I can pencil that together.
Man.
I can pencil
just
that
2
together.
words. Yep.
I love it. All right. Score predicts for Saturday. Do you do those?
Sure. Why not?
Let's do it. I love it.
Hey, what's the betting line? Do we know?
Let me pull that up because
I'm going to guess it's going to be Alabama by 3.5.
I think it's 10.5.
I think it's 10.5.
10.5?
10.5. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, yeah, Bama's 10.5.
Oh my gosh, I would take that all day.
Ooh, take all those points.
All day.
Yeah.
I'll say Vanderbilt 38-35.
Ooh, okay.
He thinks Vanderbilt's going to win again. Corey, you made a good comment earlier about never thinking that Vanderbilt would be able to go into Tuscaloosa and win. I think I made a comment earlier about it being so weird seeing Vanderbilt. Or it will be weird seeing Vanderbilt on the set of College Game Day.
Yeah.
Like the helmet.
With the helmet on there. On the set.
Too bad Lee Corso won't be there to wear the Commodore fedora.
I know.
That would be something. It is amazing. Did you guys watch the SEC shorts?
Yes, yeah.
And they had a great one today where they were turning in their L's. And the secretary who was handing him out looked at a picture on where it ended, and it was the Commodore guy, and she was just like, "I miss him." He hasn't been there. He hasn't been there all year. They're 5-0. They're 5-0.
I haven't seen that one yet, but I'll have to go check that out. Those guys are so creative over there. They do a good job.
Great. They're great.
They turn those skits around really, really well. Corey, thank you so much for joining us. You nailed it last week. We'll see if you'll nail it this week with a 3-point win.
I'm not foolish. Kalen DeBoer is an excellent football coach.
Absolutely.
He has won everywhere he's been, and he has a really tough job at Alabama in following up an icon is very difficult. And I mean, he knows his X's and O's. He knows how to coach. It's getting everybody to follow you and everybody to pull in the same direction. And, sometimes that can take a few recruiting cycles to get all your guys believing in you. And we'll see if they crossed a hurdle last week, but they crossed that hurdle last year before they played the Commodores and they knocked off Georgia.
That's true.
We'll see.
We'll see if they can be giant killers once again. They're giants.
They're the Giants now. What are you talking about?
I was about to.
There's one undefeated team in this game.
I had giant killers, but they're the Giants themselves as well. It's a battle of titans, a battle of real titans there.
Don't say that. The Titans never win.
Corey, you're the best, man. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah.
Always entertaining, always great. Corey Curtis there.
Don't say the Titans.
You know, they got the Preds coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's on fire right now.
That Steven Stamkos contract looks real nice right now.
Yeah, it does.
Go Bolts.
It does. We'll see if they can get it done there in T-Town as Coach Saban and the crew from College Game Day will have the Vanderbilt helmet on the set as they go to play Alabama. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, one of the voices of the SEC might be making a run to Washington, D.C. We'll connect the dots next. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here. We're going to take a bit of a sports and political turn here on our program. Great to be joined by Peter Albrecht, the news anchor right here at WKRG. First of all, news has kind of broken over the last few hours that Paul Feinbaum, the host of the SEC Network, he's got his own radio show, has been in Alabama for a long time, is thinking about running for the United States Senate in the seat that's now vacated because Tommy Tuberville is running for governor of the state of Alabama. Number one, how did this land for you, and what do you make of these political figures going in, or sports figures going into politics?
Yeah, kind of out of left field, I thought. And he said on this podcast that he was kind of inspired by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It got him to thinking and contemplating a lot of stuff. He's always been a Republican and a conservative guy, so he says now he's thinking about it. He's got to make a decision pretty quickly.
Yeah.
January is qualifying, and the primary, which in the state of Alabama is the election, de facto, takes place in May. So it's not a lot of time. If he's going to do it, he needs to do it quickly.
Absolutely. We talked about Tommy Tuberville and his run to that Senate seat, and then now he's going to take over as the governor. What do you think from a political standpoint will Paul Feinbaum's next move have to be? Because obviously he has a very high-profile job. He can't do these two things at once, try to run for that seat and his job right at the SEC Network.
Yeah, it's a curious deal, and even if he waits till football season is over again, that's kind of pushing it. Tuberville got in. I think maybe that's opened the eyes of a lot of different sports figures. Bruce Pearl thought about it very seriously.
Yeah.
From what we're led to believe, he said he decided against it. So I think, Tuberville getting in kind of opened up that concept. And then, of course, the Trump administration is full of media people. And so, I'm not sure if Feinbaum has a relationship with the president, because whoever the president endorses is going to win that race, no matter the money or what else. But there's a couple other strong candidates in the race. Steve Marshall, the attorney general for 8 years in the state. And also Barry Moore, who's a congressman who now represents part of our area here in Mobile, Baldwin County, on over to the Wiregrass. He's been in Congress for about 6 years, but he's a very conservative guy. He's in the Freedom Caucus in the U.S. House. So if you're looking for a super conservative, he would be that person. And in a primary, that's who's voting. In a Republican primary, typically are very conservative voters.
Absolutely. Paul Feinbaum made mention of this on Outkick the Coverage on Trey Clavis, or Travis. What's his name? Clay Travis from Outkick the Coverage. He was on his show. He was very vague, Pete, about who basically talked him into this, or maybe said, hey, put a bug in his ear. Who do you think it might have been that said? He said somebody that's kind of high up in Alabama government, and is somebody that you think that maybe that is aligned with the Trump administration that told him, hey, think about this.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, his name recognition would be off the charts. People might know, even people who are in Republican circles probably know Steve Marshall, but they probably don't have strong feelings one way or the other about him. Barry Moore, he is in Congress, but if you don't live in his congressional district, if you live in one of the other 5 in Alabama that he hasn't represented, you might not really know much about him. So there's a name recognition is worth a lot. But even with the name recognition, if Trump stays out of an endorsement, you need a lot of money to run a U.S. Senate race.
What is that from a political standpoint? How much money will need to be raised in order to win these kind of things?
They say in an open seat, to win an open seat, typically what's been raised and spent is $32 million.
Wow.
Now, you think about that nationwide, a lot of that might be in districts where you not only have to run in a primary, then you have to run in a general election against the other party. Here in Alabama, really not so much. If you win next May, if you're a Republican, barring just some sort of scandal like we saw with Judge Roy Moore back in the 2017 election with Doug Jones, the Republicans going to win that. So let's cut that in half. That's $16 million. And can you raise $16 million between now and May? I don't know if you can.
That is going to be really, really hard. Political figures or sports figures stepping into politics is not anything new. Tom Osborne, the great coach there at Nebraska, did it. Bill Bradley has done it as well.
Back, Jack Kemp back from the AFL football days. So.
From a guy from your perspective, and you've been in sports and you've been in news for a long time, this Venn diagram of sports figures going into politics, why does it seem to work as well as it does? And do you see this kind of in that same vein?
I think they're celebrities first and foremost, and we're a celebrity-obsessed culture in this country, no doubt about it. I think people, who are around athletics are competitive. They want to win, if they've been coaches or players, and they see that as another arena maybe to get into. I don't know. One question I'd ask about Paul Feinbaum, and you might know more than I would or have some thoughts about it, is he's very well known, but is he very well liked? Those are two different things.
That's true.
And you might listen to Feinbaum, might be very popular, but that doesn't necessarily mean you like him if you listen to him every day. I don't know.
That's exactly right. That's a really good point, though, too, because he's been such a polarizing figure on the radio. I wonder if that will continue to the ballot box if he still has this split vote there.
Well, part of the personality, you get people to listen to you on the radio is to kind of go on the edge and aggravate people and that kind of thing. So, again, we'll have to see how it plays out.
For those that don't necessarily keep up with politics day to day, what would his role be as far as being able to fill that Senate seat in a way that is actually reflective of what that job is? For example, for Tommy Tuberville, I think if you ask your random people on the street, what all has he done? I don't know if many people would know, day to day or kind of job to job what he's been able to do. What are some of the nuts and bolts things that he'll have to do if he does get that seat?
It just seems like in the last couple of years it's follow the leader, right? Follow the the trail left by President Trump, that Tommy Tuberville certainly has been faithful to that. And I'm assuming that anybody who wants to run and win would need to follow that path as well.
Absolutely. Certainly an eyebrow-raising headline there as SEC Network host Paul Feinbaum considering, still not official, considering a run for United States Senate seat held by former Auburn head coach Tommy Tuberville. Pete, thank you so much for your insight.
You're welcome.
Jonas, keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will talk a little bit more Alabama's big win over Georgia, as well as the Ryder Cup. United States this close to coming up with a big win. Stay with us. Closing up shop here on a Monday on Southeast Sports Plus. We knew going into the weekend, Patrick, it will be a great week of not only football, but sports in general here as our lights and our televisions are flickering over here as we close up shop on Southeast Sports Plus. But one of the things in the long list of the reasons why the weekend was going to be special was the Ryder Cup. And the United States falls to Europe, unfortunately, 15-13 there. What was your overall take of just the comeback? Because the United States was in a huge hole.
Huge hole.
And we were able to make Sunday very competitive and must-watch television.
Yeah, I mean, going into the day, Keegan Bradley had talked about being at the Patriots Super Bowl where they were down 28-3, and he kind of gave them that speech of, I was at that Super Bowl. We can definitely do this. And honestly, for a while, I really thought that the U.S. was going to come back and win, but there's one thing that's going to overshadow the whole thing, and it was the envelope rule with Victor Hovland withdrawing due to injury. In my personal opinion, and I know we're going to hear a sound about this here in just a few minutes, that the U.S. has taken advantage of this rule as well. I don't think in any sport, if you withdraw, no matter what happens, if you get hurt or anything, it does not go down as a tie. It should go down as a loss.
Right.
I just think it's so silly that you withdraw and get somewhat rewarded for it. Now, he got hurt. That's understandable.
For sure.
But still, you don't deserve half a point because you withdraw, then why do we even play the matches in general?
Right. And for those that don't know, explain a little bit about that envelope rule and how it pertains specifically to yesterday's result.
So at the beginning of the Ryder Cup, both captains agreed on this thing called an envelope rule, which you put in one in the event of someone getting hurt during the Sunday singles, you put in a name of someone that's going to sit out of the Sunday singles, and that's why Harris English didn't play yesterday. But, I mean, you look at the comeback, and yes, it fell short. That was some of the most electric golf that I believe has ever been played.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, you just look at it, and some people are going to say, oh, you know, it wouldn't have mattered because Europe ended up winning 15-3 anyways. But when you look at it, I think the final few matches that ended up being halved.
Right.
That's how Europe got to 15, is because they didn't win an extra match. There was just a couple of draws.
Right.
I think those matches would have ended differently because those matches would have meant a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And I was saying this the whole day yesterday. The longer these matches go to holes 16, 17, 18, the more the advantage is for the U.S.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, Russell Henley was unable to make a putt after an incredible bunker shot from 18. He was just unable to make the putt. And, you know, I knew it right away when Lowry hit it just inside of him, and I was like, you know, he's going to get the read.
And they were putting well the entire time. We got a chance to hear from Keegan Bradley, who was the captain for the United States yesterday.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you what, we were talking with the vice captains last night when everyone went to bed that the team really believed they could win. Like I was honestly pretty surprised. I was on a team that got smoked, and we did not have that feeling. And when we went to bed, I was just astonished at how these guys were like, we're going to win this, and they believed it. They weren't just saying it. And you know, I could see the belief in their eyes. I could see it this morning. I could see their body language. Like, these guys they weren't moping around. They were ready to go out there and win and play their hardest, and they did that.
Also got a chance to hear from the captains as well yesterday.
Yeah, it has to change.
Do you have any ideas?
I have a few ideas, but I'm not going to tell you right now. But I mean, the rule has to change. I mean, I think it's obvious to everybody in the sports world, in this room. Nothing against Victor, but that rule needs to change by the next Ryder Cup.
I think it's been in place since 1971. The U.S. have used it before. I think it's happened in 1991 with Steve Pate. That was a tight Ryder Cup, too, 14.5, 13.5. It happened in 1993. Sam Torrance couldn't play with an injured toe. The U.S. won that one. It's just, you know, we have contracts for a reason, and a captain's agreement for a reason, for situations that occur. I want to center it back to Victor. I would have had absolute faith in him to deliver a point today. He couldn't play. He was gutted. He was close to tears to not be able to play. So the rule is the rule, and it's been in place for a long time.
You know, it's just really unfortunate. But, you know, Luke Donald does make a great point.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you brought that energy into Monday, if your Team USA, or into Friday, if your Team USA, it would have been a little bit different. But your star, your number one player, cannot go 0-4 entering Sunday.
Yep, the number one player in the world, Scottie Scheffler, certainly did not look the part this weekend there at the Ryder Cup. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We are back tomorrow from 2 to 4 to watch the Cubbies get a big win in the playoffs.